Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, everybody, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, and you are not alone. And to that end, this is cool. This is really cool. It never ceases to amaze me, the people that we're able to have on the show and the guests that we're able to find. It's just so cool. And today is no exception. Keith Robinson, about 16 years ago, learned a technique to clean the cardiovascular system and restore blood flow throughout the body, which I don't know. That's why we're talking to him and not me about it, because it's so cool, but it blows my mind. He was skeptical at first. So he tested the technique on himself, which is, cool, brave, cool. But when he did that, he had reduced the age of his cardiovascular system to that of a teenager, which, honestly, I don't even know what that means. We're going to talk about that. Keith now helps others to restore proper blood flow, balance their immune system, pH, gut microbiome, all the things that are in there, so that their body will go into repair mode and fix pretty much anything. So I like that. Fixing things, right? Your body's not attacking you and trying to kill you. It's trying to fix things. That's a good thing. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to bring Keith on right now. Oh, man. Good morning, Keith. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. It's lovely to be able to share information to people who could probably do with the information.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the key, right? The doing. You can you can share all day long, but you got to do something with it. So hopefully by the end of this show, people are going to be chomping at the bit to do something, and they'll be reaching out to you. So it's just fascinating to me that in our conversations leading up to this, and it's just restoring blood flow is cool. I mean, it's obviously it's kind of a necessity for life. But first, why? Like, what was going on that made you think that you wanted to seek out this solution? What was going on with you that you did this?
Well, there wasn't anything in particular going on with me. I did have, I was worried about one area because both of my parents had died of cancer before the age of 60, which technically puts me in a high risk bracket. But when I came across this information, the way it was put to me was, that it's going to be possible to reverse heart disease shortly. And when you look at the stats that more people die of cardiovascular issues than cancer issues, well, then really, if I have an opportunity to look into that, it makes sense to do that and not just dismiss the idea. So that's when, as you mentioned earlier on, I had my vascular system analyzed, and I put this to the test because there's always that wee bit of skepticism going on in my head. Is somebody telling me porky pies, or is somebody actually giving me some good information? So
Right.
I needed to prove it to myself, which I did.
You did. And how, and just out of curiosity, like, what does that look like? How did you prove it to yourself? What did you do?
So what I did was I had my own cardiovascular system analyzed with a device that actually measures the vascular system. And I was 46 then. My cardiovascular age was showing up to be that of a 40-year-old. So I then followed the protocol of supplying my body with the nutrition it needed to work on things. And 90 days later, my vascular age was actually that of a 22-year-old, and 2 months later, it was that of a teenager. So what had happened was my cardiovascular system started to clean itself, which is a natural process.
Yeah. Okay. So through the proper nutrition and things that you did during that period, you're able to well, and we're going to probably look at this. I think we have a visual for this
Yes.
that I'll put on the screen. But the when you say the age of a 16-year-old versus a 40-year-old, you're
Yes.
talking about the amount of buildup that's in there. Is that what you're
Yes.
talking about?
So
Okay.
you're going to have certain markers that you can measure. One of them is going to be your ordinary BP, your blood pressure, which you would get from your arm. Another one is going to be your central aortic systolic pressure, which is actually the blood pressure in the heart at the left ventricle as it is pumping. And the third one that can be measured is the flexibility or the percentage stiffness of the arteries. So if you have plaque buildup in the arterial system, they're going to lose flexibility. If you have no plaque buildup, they're going to be very clean, elastic, and free flowing.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. The more buildup, it's kind of like when you think of a hose or a anything else, if there's buildup, it's gonna be tough. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, I think, let's pull this one up here first, because it looks like this one would be pretty pertinent to what you're talking about. So tell us what we're looking at here.
This is a cross section of an artery to pretty much show what's going on in people's arterial system. But it's highlighting the area of nitric oxide production. And this is something that is, believe it or not, the 1998 Nobel Prize for Medicine, which actually proved that nitric oxide was a signaling molecule in the cardiovascular system. So generally, in our 20s, we are making adequate nitric oxide that is keeping arterial system clean, elastic, and free flowing. But when we move on to our 40s, we only make 50% of whatever nitric oxide we made in our 20s.
Yeah.
When we get up to our 60s, we are only making 15% of what we made in our 20s. So as you can see, the progression of the decrease of nitric oxide production is leading to an increase in plaque buildup.
Okay.
That's really what's going on in people's arterial system. But some people, all this is happening even earlier than what's shown on the slide. So a cardiologist was telling a friend of mine one day that there is evidence of cardiovascular disease in 8-year-old children. So sometimes people make even less than others because there are certain blockers to nitric oxide production, one of which is called ADMA, which is short for asymmetric dimethylarginine. And what happens is ADMA parks on your endothelium, which is the lining of the veins and the arteries. Arginine comes in to park on the endothelium to make nitric oxide, but there are no parking spaces. So somebody who has a high level of ADMA will make a lot less nitric oxide than somebody that has a lower level of ADMA. So in order to override that, you can provide the body with nutrition to give the body the capability of overriding that and making plenty of nitric oxide. And then even if you have had plaque buildup like you have in the later part of that slide, you then can melt the plaque that is there in the arterial system and restore the blood flow. Because an awful lot of people find themselves with high blood pressure. And this is an indication that you've already built up plaque in the arteries.
Yeah.
Blood flow is diminished, getting to different parts of the body. And then those parts of the body start asking the heart to rise in pressure to try and compensate for that. So as blood pressure is rising, your flow has diminished. But if you go on blood pressure medication, the blood pressure medication tells the heart to lower back down, but does nothing about the original problem. So in other words, you're creating a time bomb waiting to go off because the plaque is there. There's a risk of it rupturing, but also the blood flow that was going to the far side of that is now back down to the diminished amounts that it was before the body asked the heart to rise in pressure.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to laugh because it's not funny, but it's not ha funny. It's more like bang your head against the wall funny is what it is, because there's so many medications out there, and people are so comfortable taking medication for things. Yes. But this has been, I've talked to so many people on the show about similar things and in relation to medication to treat things, and medication and pharmaceuticals are a band-aid to treat a symptom. Not even treat a symptom, cover up a symptom so that you feel like you don't have it. And then, which doesn't do you any good if you're taking a pill. And I'm sorry, there are some people that take a medication for a certain reason that actually helps them. Yes. I'm not trying to say that, but for this kind of thing, medication would almost be dangerous because you're not letting your body feel what's going on. Right?
Yes. Yeah, and you're actually starving the organs and glands of the blood supply they were requesting in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, and then this is this little side note. This doesn't have anything to do with the particular topic we're talking about, but it's important to say maybe that even so, okay, you're taking blood pressure medication, but maybe you're also taking cholesterol medication, and you're taking heart medication, you're taking whatever other, medications, and maybe they're being prescribed by different doctors, right? You go into this specialist and that one over there and this person back there, and none of them they don't typically talk to each other about who they're prescribing what. And so just the mix of those medications could be detrimental or deadly.
While you mention cholesterol, let's cover that. When you start to get excessive stiffness in the arteries, when the heart pumps blood to try and get blood flow through, those arteries should have been flexible. But if you have built up plaque, the heart pumps blood, the arteries try and flex, but they've lost their flexibility, so you get tiny cracks and tears through the arterial system. The response to that is your body asks your liver to increase cholesterol production to go in and seal the cracks and tears. So cholesterol is not the enemy it is made out to be. Cholesterol is used in the body to make hormones, bile acids. Every cell in your body, 87% of that is built from cholesterol. It's used to protect your wiring around your body and your brain. And so when you have a lack of cholesterol, what kind of things happen? Dementia. So you actually need cholesterol, but in my opinion, the cholesterol medication is not solving a cholesterol problem. It is interfering with the body's mechanism of protecting itself. But what I found is when I was doing cardiovascular screening on people, there was always a correlation between stiffness in the arteries above your age group and a high cholesterol. But as soon as you clean the arteries and get the flexibility back, cholesterol goes back to the normal level that's required to do the other jobs that it's designed to do.
So let me see if I understand this. So cholesterol is not necessarily the enemy. It's got a function in the body that is good, but where people get in trouble is when they're like when people are talking about, oh, I have high cholesterol. Oh, that's terrible. Is it maybe so forgive my ignorance here, but there's like the LDL and the like there's different aspects of that. Is like maybe it's certain aspects of it that's the bad part, and it's the right? Like you can't just eat bacon and eggs forever and think your
Well,
cholesterol is
yes,
not going to go through the
you
roof,
get
right?
you get a figure of total cholesterol, but it's broken down into high density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, triglycerides, and homocysteines.
Right.
But
Okay.
then they're bumped together to make total cholesterol. And yes, you should have probably the HDL you want a little bit higher, and the LDL you want a little bit lower. But at the end of the day, they're actually proteins. But it's bundled together to create the word cholesterol, to have everybody feared of the word cholesterol.
Right. Oh yeah, no. It's I don't know about it. I don't know, in Ireland, but in the United States, yeah, cholesterol is definitely the enemy, and there are probably millions of people in this country on cholesterol medication because we've been conditioned that high
Yes.
blood pressure high blood pressure is not great, but that cholesterol is the enemy, and you should lower your cholesterol at all costs. And so,
Yeah.
and so,
do you
but
remember?
that's not necessarily true.
Do you remember back in time when they started to talk about cholesterol first as this major enemy? The way we measure cholesterol a little bit different than you do in the US. We're say in times gone by, you'd say 7 was the figure, the magic figure that you really shouldn't be above that. And then they moved the figure from 7 down to 5. And then they moved it down again. So all the people in between that could be on medications. That's my mind working in overdrive on that one, but that's what it looks like to me.
So it's so I don't want to get I don't want to get anybody knocking on my door or anything, but this reminds me a lot of what I was told a few years ago about somebody was telling me, like, the food pyramid, right? The food pyramid has nothing to do with nutrition. The food pyramid was created in the United States at a time that they had an excess of whatever was at the bottom, in the marketplace. They had a huge excess of that. And so that was at the bottom. You should eat more of that. And then as it went up, it was because of scarcity of that certain thing. It had nothing to do with what was good for your body. It had everything to do of scarcity and supply. And so I have a feeling it's something like that.
It wouldn't surprise me. But the good news is the body is very good at adjusting itself according to what's going on. So
yes.
If somebody was consistently making adequate nitric oxide, they wouldn't be building up the plaque in their arteries, they wouldn't be getting stiffer, and then cholesterol would be only being manufactured to do the other very important jobs that it does. They wouldn't need to be asking it to make extra to seal cracks and tears because of the arterial stiffness.
Okay, so yeah, all right. I'm my brain is kind of exploding right now. So this is because this is not, and we're gonna. I think this is a good stopping point for us to go to a break real quick. We're gonna do a couple commercials, but oh man, I'm sorry, my brain is kind of like reeling right now because honestly, this is totally bucking the whole system of, cholesterol is a big deal in the United States. Like we don't eat great here. In general, in general, we have terrible diets in the United States, and that contributes to it. But I think where we're falling down, according to what you're saying, is the medication. If you could address it naturally and figure out, like, go to the cause.
Yes.
You could probably save yourself from having to take that medication, and it would be less dangerous. So
exactly. And the very simple solution of helping your body to go back to the proper levels of nitric oxide production, you wouldn't have none of the problems that are there because of a lack of nitric oxide production. There
you go. Yeah, it's true. It's just, it seems so simple, but it's so foreign, So I tell you what, we're gonna dive into that in the second segment, because this is all. It's almost like you have to take a couple steps back first, and talk about some other things, and then we can, talk about how to fix it, because this is really mind-blowing stuff, honestly. So I'm gonna let's go to a commercial here, and then in just a couple minutes when we come back, We're going to dive into some of the particulars of all that. And yeah, I'm almost speechless. This is crazy. So, all right, we'll go to a commercial, and we'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for being here, Keith. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Does your to-do list have you feeling stressed? Does your list include tasks like responding to email and phone calls, collecting forms and paperwork, and sending quotes and invoices? Have you been neglecting posting updates to your social media accounts, email newsletters, or content on your website? Maybe you need help to get digitally organized. I'm Selena, one of the owners at Office Mercenary, and we're a US-based virtual assistant agency. We can take care of all of these tasks and more so you can get back to focusing on the things you love about your business. Our team is happy to work with you and your individual needs. So schedule a call with us, bring your to-do list, and stop doing the tedious tasks.
In a world where office workers typically receive 130 daily emails and have an 8-second attention span, CoreCentrica, with her 4 decades of international marketing experience, has partnered with the Learning Code Institute and their 30 years of neuroscientific research. Together, we are crafting unique messaging strategies that resonate, connect, and ultimately convert our target audiences. CoreCentrica, where award-winning creativity and disruptive neuroscience come together. Scan this code now, or call and click, and let us show you how CoreCentrica's partnership with the Learning Code Institute is influencing how businesses connect with their audience, foster engagement, and achieve conversions.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are back, and if your mind wasn't blown in the first segment, brace yourself, because it's I'm telling you, and it's not even because there's anything super weird going on here. It's nothing crazy. It's just stuff. It's going against what I personally have heard my whole life about cholesterol and about how to have a clean cardiovascular system and what to do and what not to do. And it's just totally different information than I've heard before. So yeah. I'm sure you get that a lot.
Yes, but sometimes I'm dealing with medical experts and they're tuned into it, but not all. Because I got a phone call from a surgeon in a private hospital, and he asked me to help him get his brother off medications because he was hypertensive and on 2 medications. So I worked with his brother on what to give his body to work on the problem. And he took his own BP every day, sent it to his brother, and then his brother guided him on when to lower the medications. And it only took 6 weeks to get him off his medications.
Oh, wow. That's unbelievable. See, and it's so simple. I've had so many people on the show about, alternative, stuff that is, and I say alternative because it's something that your doctor is not typically going to tell you about, right?
Yes.
And it works so well, but it's so not in the mainstream yet. Well, I want to say yet.
Remember, what alternative was mainstream before it was readjusted.
I know. For thousands of years, the alternative was the mainstream, and then about 150 years ago, traditional pharmaceutical medicine came in and said we can do it better. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited that the pendulum is swinging the other way now, and kind of people are. And what's really exciting is, like you said, with your friend that you were the doctor,
Yes.
partnering with them and working with them on that. You know, that's happening more and more now. Not enough, but it's happening more and more where medical doctors are partnering with natural medicine practitioners and helping people. It's awesome. So we got a long way to go, though. But well, tell us about the let's see, what do we want to talk about here?
We put up the slide about the 85-year-old gentleman.
85-year-old gentleman,
which is the cardiovascular screening that 90 days apart, and show how much his vascular system repaired within 90 days.
Is that this one?
No, it actually says 85-year-old on the top left-hand side.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, there's a little clue
top
there.
Left. Where is it?
It's you'd see two graphs of a heartbeat in the middle of it. That's the one.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's the one.
So this is an actual cardiovascular screening 90 days apart of a gentleman I was asked to help. And if you understand waveforms, anyone that's watching this that understands waveform will be able to tell a lot from that. But we have the figures to go underneath to explain everything. So the blue waveform is when I met him first, and the blue figures are when I met him first. So you can see his BP was 167/95 when I met him first. 90 days later, he improved that to 131/77. The central aortic pressure, which is the one I was talking about, being at the left ventricle as the heart was pumping, his pressure was 162 when I met him first. And if you look at the average ages and the average pressures on the left-hand side of the age groups, you'd have to extrapolate that graph all the way down to an average 185-year-old person to work at a pressure of 162.
Oh, geez.
So within 3 months, he actually took 40 points off his heart pressure back to 122, which is the average pressure for an 80 to 90-year-old. So in effect, he took 100 years off his heart pressure in 3 months. And the other figure, RAI, stands for radial augmentation index. It's like the percentage stiffness or flexibility of the arteries. He was at 107% stiffness, if you like to call it percentage stiffness, when I met him first. But he improved that to 80% stiffness within 3 months. And if you look at the average ages, that's better than a 60 to 70-year-old at that point. The other thing that the waveform tells me, when I'm looking at a waveform, I can tell a lot from the waveform. So the blue waveform, when I met him first, you'll see there's sort of two peaks. The right-hand peak is actually the heart pumping blood out of the left ventricle. It goes left to right, and then at bifurcation point for the legs, it rebounds back. So instead of blood flow getting down his legs, his rebound wave was bouncing back faster than the waveform going out. And we know that by the RAP saying a +4. It shouldn't be a plus, it should be a minus. Right. But within 90 days, he had improved that to a -10, which means much better blood flow going down the legs.
Wow. Yeah. Holy smokes. That's crazy. And so wait, so you is that what you were talking about with the average age, like your average age of your arteries going down to 16 or some crazy thing?
Exactly. Do you see where the average 20 to 30-year-old male on the right-hand side is 53.2% stiffness? Uh-huh. I got mine down below 33%.
That's awesome. Oh man. And I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but in most things in life, getting it down to where you want it to be, or getting it, whatever it is in life, whatever it is in health, getting it to where you want it to be is harder than maintaining it at that level. Probably. Correct. Right. I mean, once you get it there, it's easy to maintain.
Correct. Because you have to obviously give the body plenty of fuel to work with to reverse a problem. Right. And a small bit of fuel keeps it from ever going backwards.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That whole space shuttle principle, right? It takes 90% of the fuel to get it off the ground and then orbit.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, there's still there's still work to be done. You still gotta kick it into gear, at the beginning, but at least there's the hope of not having, because I think that's where a lot of people run into, I don't want to do that, because they think it's going to be such hard work for so long, and then my life is over, then I can't do this or I can't do that. But it's just that initial push, right?
Yeah,
to get where you need to be.
It's not like having training for a Mr. Universe competition. you don't
Thank God.
You don't have to keep going at that and get to that level and stay there. You give your body what it needs. Remember, the food that people are consuming has such a diminished value of nutrition compared to what there was 50 years ago. If you ate a plate of salad 50 years ago, you'd have to sit down and eat 47 plates of salad to get the same nutrition today. So you cannot actually give the body what it actually requires to perform, recover, and replace itself at a decent standard from the food we just generally eat. So you must give the body the missing nutrition also.
And is that so? I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's true in the United States. Our food supply there's no food left in our food, generally speaking. You can find good stuff,
yes,
but it's so scarce and so expensive. You go to the supermarket and it's hard. It's harder than it's ever been. Is that true everywhere? Is it true in Ireland and Western Europe and like everywhere? Or I thought it would be easier over there.
Well, one of the slides there is the Swiss government did a survey on the decrease of fruits and vegetables from 1985 to 2002, different vitamins and minerals. So that was in Switzerland. So it is pretty much true everywhere. That's the one, yeah. So you can see all the different decreases of vitamins and minerals in fruits and vegetables from those ones on the screen, just for a 17-year period, which we've gone 22 years beyond that now, and I guarantee you it did not get any better. But you often heard of people of a vitamin V, a B6 or a B12 deficiency. If you ate a banana in 1985, you got 330 milligrams per 100 gram of vitamin B6. But in 2002, you got the grand sum of 18. So does that equate to a problem that people are not getting nutrition?
You think? Well, no. So part of that is food production, though. I mean, this is such a large scale thing. It's not just, well, eat more of this or eat more of that. It's a food production problem, because in the United States anyway, the production is, how do we do it faster, bigger, cheaper,
yes,
so that we can sell more, instead of everybody having their own little plot of land and growing it and not having to worry about all the pesticides and all the crap that's going in there and all the GMO and all the stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's been the main thing.
Yeah. GMO is an issue, not let the land to be fallow, to rejuvenate. You have chemtrails dropping stuff on the soil all the time. You have additives in the water that shouldn't be in the water. And then the more processed a food is, the more it's harmed. So all of those things together, we're actually under attack all the time. And then because we are a cellular being and we need to perform, recover, replace ourselves, if we're being attacked with all these poisons, we're not going to be able to do that. And next thing, we end up with an imbalance in the body. And then there's a label put on that. And then there's a medication attached to the label. But everything really is in imbalance in the body.
Well, and that's exactly, you hit it on the head there. Yeah, it's the, I've always thought, like, in the last 15, 20 years, it's kind of just in the back of my head. It kind of drove me nuts. I'm like, why do I have to take these supplements? Why am I taking a supplement for this or for that or whatever? But it's because that this is where the supplement industry has just exploded. It's because the food quality has gone like this. And so you have to increase you got to get it somewhere. So if you have a good high quality supplement for whatever you're lacking because of your food intake, that's almost like, if you're not doing that, you're going backwards now.
Exactly. And not all supplements are created equal. Because
That's for sure.
sometimes you have supplements where they've all this list of ingredients on the side of it, but they're synthetically manufactured. The body's not going to recognize that. It's going to just pass through, and you're just purchasing expensive urine. So what I'm using with people is we use extremely high quality raw berries and extremely high quality raw greens, but they're tested down to parts per trillion to make sure there's no traces of herbicides, insecticides, GMOs, or heavy metals. So in other words, it's the purest of pure food that the body recognizes and puts to work. And then we have the arginine complexer to open the blood flow in the body, so all that nutrition is being carried everywhere. Next thing, the body says, I have fuel to work with now. What am I going to work on?
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
It's about time. So is that the let's see, is that this?
Yeah, this would be the European version of what we're using.
Okay.
So the Arginine Plus is the arginine complexer for the body to increase nitric oxide production. And believe it or not, that was in the physician's desk reference in the US for, I think, 7 or 8 years as being the highest quality arginine complexer available in the world, even though it's only a food. And then the Mystify, which is at the back with the berries on it, that is your live raw berries to give your body massive amounts of nutrition, massive amounts of antioxidants. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It's a natural pain suppressant, and it protects your cells from viruses. And that's called Mystica in the States. And on the left-hand side, you have the Vitalife, what we call here in Europe. It's your raw greens, mulberry, alfalfa, barley grass, peppermint oil. Most people don't eat enough greens. And therefore, the jobs that greens do, which is to improve the blood quality, detox organs, balance pH, plus provide nutrition, help the digestive system, they are not happening because there's no greens going into the system. So this is making sure those jobs can all get done because you now have the greens. And we would take that after every meal. So between the raw greens and the raw berries are providing the body with the nutrition that's missing. The arginine complexer is making sure that the body can start repairing its own cardiovascular system and opening the blood flow.
Nice. I love it. And you said this is the European version, but
this is the European version, yeah.
But if we were to
when I'm working with people or guiding them, I give them the link to the US website, which automatically has everything US, you know.
Right, but I mean, as we talked about before, you don't want to necessarily. You have a website, but we don't want to just put it out there because we don't want people going there and saying, "What do I do?" Right?
I don't want somebody looking into a bush and wondering what's that. I would prefer if somebody has a Zoom call where they can understand what's going on, why they're in bother, how much bother are they in, so that I can guide them on how much fuel they may need to give the body for it. Because we have watched people correct pretty much any condition that you could probably mention. We have watched somebody correct it. I even have a good friend who reversed his MS. And that's, I mean, he had no feeling in the left side of his body, no feeling in his right hand or right foot. He had lesions on his brain. And over the space of a year, giving his body that fuel, he eliminated every symptom. And he's symptom-free for about 16 years at this point.
That's crazy. Oh, man. See, and I've got a friend that literally, MS has he was diagnosed years and years and years ago. And it's to the point that he almost can't
feel his fingers.
He has no feeling in his hands, his feet, and it makes it tough, man. I mean, even like buttoning a shirt is a thing, and you're saying that this could be helpful for that.
That's the way he was. That's the way Mods was. He had no feeling in the left side at all.
Yeah.
No feeling in his right hand or right foot. And he had lesions on his brain. He's had follow-up scans showing even the lesions went from his brain.
Wow. That is awesome.
And we actually also we've helped people reverse the need for bypass surgery. One guy, he was told he needed a triple bypass. He went on our protocol, went strong, but he went back 3 months later and told, I don't know what's after happening, but you no longer require a bypass. we had a lady that was 5 years in bed from a stroke with no feeling on one side of her body. Following our protocol, within 5 weeks, she was getting back to feeling in the dead side of her body.
Oh my gosh. Woo. That's awesome. Okay.
We helped the lady in Dublin eliminate HIV over a 6-month period. I helped the lady over in the Galway area eliminate lupus over a 6-month period, where inflammation in her blood was showing at 18 when I met her first. 6 months later, it was 0.6.
Wow. Lupus. You know what? That reminds me of somebody. I need to get you in touch with a friend of mine. When you said lupus, that automatically like triggered her face is in my brain right now. I can picture her. I gotta get you in touch with her because she would probably, because she has been through it, man. Lupus is rough.
I know,
especially when you're getting bombarded with medications for it. You know,
when I met her first, she was in so much pain. Her mother had to help her take her coat off when she got home from teaching.
Yeah. Yep.
And within 6 months, she was completely back to normal.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Diabetes is another huge area where people need help because 2/3 of diabetics die from cardiovascular disease. So if you take that off the table, but we're not only seen massive results in diabetes itself and people avoiding amputations, we've seen their diabetes actually needing less and less medications. And there is a slide there of a lady. It's a little bit gruesome, but there's a lady who was told her leg needed to be amputated. And this is showing the repair of that leg over just 9 weeks, where they wanted to amputate it.
Wow. Let me see if I can.
Well, you'll recognize it when you see it. Very good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, everybody, brace yourself. This one's a little.
Brace for impact.
I'm warning you ahead of time. If you don't like it, it's got a good ending, but I want to say brace yourself because this is not pretty.
Yeah. On the left-hand side is her starting point where they wanted to amputate it. And on the right-hand, their pictures say a week after starting the V3 system, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and 9 weeks.
Wow. 9 weeks. And she got to, so the difference was the difference of 9 weeks doing something a little different than what the medical community told her to, that needed to be, that was necessary. 9 weeks and she got to keep her leg. That's unbelievable. Because so many people think it's going to take so long. You know, it's like, oh, it's just going to, I don't have the patience for that. But 9 weeks to keep a leg is pretty stinking good.
Well, think about it logically. Why did that get into that condition in the first place? Because there was no blood flow to repair the problem. There's a small problem that was there. So it got worse and worse and worse. So as soon as the blood flow gets down there, and with the nutrition in the blood flow, well, then the body says, I have a problem I need to work on here, and now I have the fuel, so it works on it. And what I found over time, the body prioritizes what it needs to be working on first. And I'll give you an example of how I learned that. There was a lady coming to events that we were doing in Dublin back years ago, and she had migraines so bad she was losing the sight in one eye for 2 days. So she said, this is worth trying. So she went on the V3 system. We call it the Vital 3, V3 for short. And she actually, the next month she came back and she said, lads, my migraine is massively improved.
Wow.
The following month she came back, she says, not only have my migraines gone, my leaky bladder has fixed itself. The following month she came back and she added something else. So every month she was coming back, she added another thing to the list that the body had sorted out. And then she told us, by the way, you don't know about this about us, but we have been 13 years trying to get pregnant. She says, I'm now pregnant.
That's awesome. See, and that's so cool. And I had something like that myself. After in 2014, I had to have 2 back-to-back brain surgeries to address hydrocephalus and replace the shunt that was in there because it was malfunctioning and being, and there was an infection, a bacterial infection in the cerebral spinal fluid. And so it was a big mess. Anyway, after 2 brain surgeries and a lot of recovery, I started getting migraines. and the migraines would not go away, and they got worse and worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point that it was 24/7. I was having migraine headaches 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it lasted over a year. And I kept going back to the surgeon, and of course I went back to the surgeon first and said, "What have you, what'd you do to me? How do we fix this?" And he said, "Well, I guess you're just gonna have to deal with headaches. I guess you're just gonna have to live with headaches." And I said, "Well, no, I don't accept that. We're out. We're gonna go looking elsewhere." And we found two things that were totally non-medical. I can't wait to get, well, one of them I have had on the show, Harmonized Brain Centers. So that actually got rid of it. It was neurofeedback that completely got rid of them within about a month. And a chiropractic neurologist was another factor in the recovery from those and getting rid of them. But none of it was medical, though. See, I think that's what people are finally slowly waking up to nowadays. In the last 10 or 20 years, is it doesn't have to be in your doctor's office that this gets fixed.
Well, nature was around a lot longer than everything else.
Than Western medicine. Yeah, it's true. They just didn't have as good of a marketing department.
Correct.
Boy, they know how to market those medications, man. It's genius. That's why it's $1 billion, probably $1 trillion industry. So
actually, when you mention neuro stuff there, an interesting point to note is that if you have adequate nitric oxide production and you have nerves in trouble, for every nerve that's damaged, there's 20 nerves to take their place. If you make adequate nitric oxide, your body uses nitric oxide to reconnect them.
Wow. Okay. So it's funny because during the most recent brain surgery 2 years ago, October of 2021, they he told me just casually, my neurosurgeon. I love this neurosurgeon, by the way. I'm not saying anything ill of him. He's awesome. I love him. But he just casually in our follow-up said, "Oh yeah." I said, "What is this pain that I'm having here? It's like shooting pain right here." He said, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. Yeah, we kind of nicked a pretty major nerve back there during surgery, so you're gonna have some shooting pain there." I was like, "Thanks for the heads up, doc." And it's persisted for like the last 2 years. It's not as bad as it used to be. It's repaired itself a little bit. It's a little better, but man, for that next 6 months or a year, it was brutal. Nerves are no joke, man, but it feel like it took a while to repair. So you're saying it just
nitric oxide is helpful in reconnecting nerves.
Probably would have helped that pain go away faster.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, you don't know what you don't know. That's
and actually, there's another thing that I learned as well. The way diabetics have issues with blood sugars balancing? Mm-hmm. If you have adequate nitric oxide production, your liver can engineer cells to excrete insulin. So it gives your body another form of natural insulin. So
type 2, you could probably knock that out, no problem then. But what about type 1?
We've seen massive results with both types.
Okay. Because type 1 is, at least in the US, I don't know, the type 1, if you're born with, because you can acquire type 2,
yes,
and maintain it or whatever. But type 1, that's a little trickier,
Well, remember, the 2/3 of diabetics are going to have cardiovascular issues. So if you take that off the board, that's you're halfway there. But Dr. Joe Prendergast, who is an endocrinologist who actually formulated Pro-Arginine Plus first before he handed all his research to Synergy Worldwide, he was testing arginine complexers on his patients. And he had, over a 20-year period, 19,000 patients, and 85% of whom were diabetic. And as I said, 2/3 of diabetics die from cardiovascular issues. He had no patient die from a heart attack or stroke in that 20-year period.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm sorry. This is I've only had a handful of guests on that leave me kind of speechless. But you're one of them, man. When it comes to this natural stuff, it blows my mind because we are so, and believe me, I'm not the guy that's just going to be like, oh, there's a medication, I'll take that. I've never taken a regular medication ever in my life.
Yeah.
Despite the brain surgeries, despite all the things that have happened in relation to that, I've never taken a regular med. So I'm not like going to just rush to the pharmacy with the first sign of trouble. But this stuff is like mind blowing. There's been a few guests that it's like, wow, that's actually possible. So
sometimes people ask, oh, can I use this if I'm on medication, or can I do this and this? And I ask them a question. Well, in order to answer that, can I ask you a question? To say yes, is, are you allowed to eat?
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. Point taken. Yeah. Well, because it's natural stuff. It's stuff that your body,
it's just food
needs anyway.
And do you know what really hit it home to me on how safe and how pure this all was? I was asked to meet a couple one time that had a baby born 3 months previously with a heart defect.
Yeah.
And that baby had spent the first 3 months of her life in hospital on oxygen 24/7, feeding tube through the nose. Excuse me. And at that point, the parents were brought into the hospital and said, look, there's nothing really we can do for her. Just bring her home and see how long she might last.
Oh, geez.
So I met with them as I was asked, and they told me the whole story from start to finish. Actually, the baby was with them, still on the oxygen mask. And I said to them, look, I know they haven't given you much hope, but I'd like to throw something on the table here and tell me if it resonates with you. I said, if we can help her to increase her own nitric oxide production, if we give her some fabulous nutrition to work with, maybe she will work on her own problem. And they said, that's the best option we have so far, because otherwise they've really sent her home to die.
Yeah.
So I guided the mother on how much of everything to get into the feeding tube, because there are maximums that you can go from an arginine perspective.
Sure.
You can only really go a maximum of 5 grams per 15 kilos in weight. So we could only work on half a sachet a day. And we could get in the Mystica and the liquid chlorophyll all right at the appropriate times. But she actually kept improving. And every time they were bringing her back to the hospital for checkups, they were scratching their head wondering why she wasn't dead, but how she was improving.
Yeah.
And that baby actually started school 2 or 3 years ago.
I love it. That is so cool. Oh, man. I love those kind of stories. And I'm sure you've got more, but we are time flies when you're having fun. And
Exactly.
we have about a minute or minute and a half left. So
yes,
with that time, what would you like to leave our audience with? I mean, I'm going to put your email back up here so that people can contact you. But what's the closing thing you want to say?
Don't be afraid to connect and reach out. There's lots of things that have been part of helping people to take control of. Really, it's nature doing its work. But we have to guide people in what's what. So I'll gladly have a Zoom call with anybody. I don't charge people anything to share information, answer questions, or support people through the journey. So you can reach out to me either on email, WhatsApp, Telegram, or LinkedIn. All of those will be below, I believe, afterwards. And let's have a chat. Let's have a call and see if I can, if the information that I have is going to be helpful to you. And then if you decide I want to go on this road, then I will actually hold your hand through that journey. And hopefully you won't be any different than everybody else who gets fabulous results.
I love it. I love it. That is so cool. Well, definitely we need to have another conversation after this, but I am so thankful that we had this time to be able to bring you to our audience so that they could learn about this. So thank you so much, Keith, for being here and for sharing all this. It's been awesome.
The main thing to keep in mind is you can't do any harm with this.
Right. Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly. Yep. That's huge. That's huge. You can't hurt you. It can only help you. So
exactly.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate your time and your info so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. that was crazy. That, like I said, not very often does it completely blow my mind, but that kind of stuff is just crazy. I love it in a good way. Crazy, like whoa, how have I not heard this before? So all right, everybody, we're about out of time, but I wanted to just take just a second to say thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you that have been with us and stuck with us. And I so appreciate all of you. And for those of you who are new that have not watched before, welcome. Thank you for watching as well. If you find an episode that you really like, maybe it's this one that you're like, whoa, I know somebody that could use that information. Share it out. That's what it's for, you know. And I love it when people have that light bulb moment, you know, like, whoa, this could probably help. So please share far and wide, and join us for our next show, which will be Friday, April 5th. And until then, have an amazing day, and we will see you on the next show. Thank you.